I'm Zim, and you're listening to the Helpful Photographer Podcast in collaboration with New York City Photo Safari. To register for a safari, please visit newyorkcityphotosafari.com. Perhaps the most obvious answer to the question of how to use manual focus is to use your eyes and your fingers. Roll the focus ring with your fingers until you see the subject is focused with your eyes. Although that seems rather obvious, there's a bit more to consider than just those two things if you want to use manual focus to achieve real sharpness. First, is your diopter dialed in? Whether you're shooting a DSLR or mirrorless, you'll find that there's a flat lever, round knob, or round dial on the side of your viewfinder. It can be at the top, bottom, left, or right side of the viewfinder. It's a device that will move the diopter of your viewfinder. The diopter is the glass inside the viewfinder that allows you to make minor corrections for your particular vision. So the great part is if you have minor vision issues, adjusting the diopter will allow you to shoot without using your glasses. However, if you have vision issues beyond what your diopter can correct, you'll need to wear your glasses while you're shooting. And that also means that your prescription better be up to date. Otherwise, you won't know whether or not your image is truly in focus. To be clear, if you have to wear glasses while shooting, be sure to adjust your diopter while you're wearing your glasses as well. To adjust your diopter, move the lever or turn the knob until you see that the numbers showing inside the viewfinder is sharp. Again, I said the numbers, not the image itself. By numbers, I mean the display that shows your f-stop and shutter speed and other information inside the viewfinder. To make these numbers display, just press the shutter halfway down. Although not all cameras have diopters, pretty much every camera I've seen lately has a diopter. If you can't find yours, double check your manual. Sometimes it's not totally obvious. Once you've dialed in your diopter, make sure that your camera is set to manual focus. This can be a switch on the side of your lens or an actual item in your menu that you'll have to turn on. The only thing left to do at this point is to roll the focus ring until you see what you want is in focus. But wait, as you do this, there's a couple of other things you might want to keep in mind. When the camera detects that something, and by something I mean anything, is in focus, a dot will appear on either the bottom left or bottom right of your display. This may be somewhat helpful or not at all. For those with mirrorless, you can enable focus peaking. Focus peaking is when your mirrorless camera lights up the things that it detects is in focus, usually by way of placing zebra stripes over those areas. Again, you'll probably need to activate this option. While you're there, see if you can change the color of the zebra stripes. For some people, certain colors work better than others. Honestly, I find focus peaking to be really distracting, but again, to each their own. If you don't have focus peaking, you might find that some cameras place boxes over the areas that are in focus. This is often the case in DSLRs. Either way, note that if you see more than your main subject highlighted, it's because that there are multiple things sitting on the same plane as your subject. Remember, your camera is only capable of focusing on a single plane. If you do not have any of these things that I mentioned, you might have something called focus assist. This is mostly available only in mirrorless cameras. I have never seen this in DSLR live view modes, so I believe it's only for mirrorless cameras. In Focus Assist, when you turn your focus ring in manual focus, the camera automatically magnifies the center of the frame so it's easier to find focus. This is helpful if your main subject is in the center of the frame. Otherwise, not so much. If, on the other hand, you're shooting a DSLR, you can basically do the same thing by putting your camera in live view and then pressing the magnify button. This is usually the same button on your camera that will magnify the image in playback. Normally, you can magnify the image up to 10 times. Once you do that, using the joystick or touchscreen, move the display to the area where you want to focus, and then move your focus ring until you see focus. From there, just fire. You do not need to back out the magnification. The camera will simply do that for you. If you're using mirrorless, you may or may not be able to do this. I think that covers the various methods for manual focus. But if you find that you cannot get good focus in manual focus, most likely it's because your diopter has not been dialed in for your particular vision or your prescription is bad. For those who don't wear glasses, I would definitely recommend an eye exam. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, I've seen this too often. For those who are dialed in, perhaps your lens calibration is off. But honestly, in 25 years, I've actually never seen a lens that was off. I do know that it does happen, I just haven't seen it. Lens calibration is a whole nother animal, and I'll leave it to you to find the answers on Google for that. Lastly, a participant recently told me that what he used to do was he used to zoom in on the subject, find focus, and then zoom back out until he found his composition. Although this used to work like 30 years ago, it's no longer the case. Manufacturers no longer make zoom lenses capable of holding the same focus throughout the zoom. It's a long explanation, so I'll just leave it there. It is what it is. Just don't do it. Wow, I thought this was going to be a rather short episode, but I guess Lawrence wasn't off his rocker when he asked the question. So this episode came to you compliments of a listener. If you have a question of your own and you want an answer to it, send me an email at zim@nycphotosafari.com. I hope that was helpful. Until next time, keep on shooting.